The show is fantastic. This is really exciting. David Simon, George Pelecanos are the co-creators. David Simon did The Wire. And this is a really exciting show that takes place in New York in the 70s.
Yes.
You were here in New York then. You were a kid.
Not in 71.
Okay, not in 71.
No.
But you were here back when it was a little dirtier than now. What were your
was.
first memories of 42nd and 2nd and that sort of Times Square area?
Well, I came here to go to college. I went to Columbia in 95. I mean, Times Square by then was already kind of like the way it is now, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
but I feel like the first time I came to New York was 95, and I still feel like it was almost now with like 4 porno shops left.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Which was really jarring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
because
true.
you're like,
The
am I going to get a
combination.
coffee or go into a weird booth for an hour?
That's
So,
true.
Yeah.
That's true. I remember actually, this is more about like way over on the west side in the West Village. There was, I think, a porn shop called Harmony.
Oh, that's lovely.
I thought it was a health food store.
Harmony does sound more like a health food
I
store.
did walk into it one day thinking it was a health food store.
Yeah. You were like, these are not granola bars. I also want to compliment your wig in that scene.
Thank you so much.
And this was a wig you selected, yes?
Yes, well, we did the camera tests, which usually you've had conversations with people before.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have an idea of what you want to do, but, like, they hadn't hired a hair woman yet. So I get there, and there's, like, 20 blonde wigs, and they looked okay. And then I saw one that was like I mean, to be totally honest, I think it maybe was like a dime store clown wig or something.
Yeah.
But I went, okay, I don't want that wig, but I want to look like Bernadette Peters or like Hannah Shigula from the Fassbinder movies or something. And I went, or like my character's name is Candy. I wanted to look like cotton candy, like yummy.
Yeah.
You know? And so I put that wig on for the camera test and everyone got freaked out. And then I convinced them, you know, and we got a really good one made. Actually, I've been seeing Edie Falco on the side of buses with my wig on.
It's very similar. You're right. She's in, it's like a Menendez Brothers show, and she has your wig.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I've seen it on buses, too. Do you think it's the same wig, and they're just running it from set to set?
I'm gonna text her that I want my wig back.
Yeah. So, you play, this is about you play a sex worker who then starts directing adult films, because this is about the legalization of the pornography industry. And you actually, is it true that you went and found sex workers who worked in New York at that time and talked to them?
Yes, before we shot the pilot, I was like getting ready to do it, and I realized I had so many questions I didn't have any way to answer unless I actually talked to a sex worker. So I asked Nina Noble, who's the third in the triumvirate of David Simon, George Pelecanos, and Nina is the sort of behind-the-scenes other element in that group. I said, like, I need to talk to a sex worker, and she found me Annie Sprinkle, who was a prostitute in the early 70s and then got into porn, and she's kind of like an intellectual pornographer.
That's that's probably the perfect person to talk to for something like this.
Yeah, she's like a sex activist, and she's hot, and she's funny, and she answered all the like real down and dirty questions I had.
What is, because I think we're on late enough at night for me to say this, but what sort of down and dirty questions did you ask?
Well, I was like, first of all, how many men a night?
Yeah, I guess that would be one.
So she said like 8 to 10.
Wow. That's really crazy.
Well, right. So if that's your reality and it's really 8 to 10 men a night, then who are you and how do you manage that? And, you know, what does that actually feel like? And if you're telling the story of that woman as opposed to the Pretty Woman version of this story, you know, how do you make sure to tell the truth? And, you know, so I had questions like that. I said, you know, what do you do if it's really, really cold? Do you wax? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, like, so she was incredibly helpful. She also introduced me to a lot of her friends. So I ended up talking to many women in their 60s and 70s who had been involved in like the early days of porn, which was particularly cool because, you know, I think some people as they get older get wiser and more interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure reflecting back on it has a lot more value, putting the years between it. Were they happy that the show was being made, that this story was being told this way as opposed to the Pretty Woman way?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people, you know, from what I can tell from Twitter, sex workers who have tweeted with me, I think they're waiting to see.
Oh, well, that's fair.
And I think that's smart. And I hope that they'll feel respected and pleased with what we're doing.
I'm guessing it'll probably just be the wig if they have an issue. Yeah. Like, you know, we wouldn't pick that wig.